Hello, hello. It's Reverend Nhien, founder of Evolving Enneagram. If you've been seeking a compassion-based, contemplative approach to Enneagram inner work, you are certainly in the right place. This is where contemplation meets the Enneagram. And we are in week 39 of a 52-week Sunday Talk series based on this book by Oren Sofer. Your heart was made for this. Today's talk is on wholehearted gratitude, 9 ways love overflows. Last week, we explored gratitude from a faith perspective, looking at how each of the 9 types might default in how they relate to gratitude as a practice, right? Based on their Enneagram conflict style. So this week, I'd like to explore how gratitude practice relates to prosperity consciousness. And so this is about a consciousness that's not material consciousness, but a consciousness that allows for the flow of giving and receiving in our beings and our lives. So related to that, I'll touch on the topic of wonder, which is actually the chapter we addressed in Sofer's book 2 weeks ago. And then I'm going to touch on the topic of generosity, which happens to be the theme of Sofer's book next week. So I want to begin by saying this might have been obvious to all of you, but it was a big aha for me this week as I was listening to people. But how often is gratitude referred to in this way? My heart is full, right? I'm grateful. I'm thankful. Like that theme of fullness struck me in a totally different way this past week, listening to people sharing about gratitude in our contemplative practices and the Enneagram groups. I'm like, full. Oh my God, no wonder I haven't liked gratitude practice for a lot of my life. No wonder I thought it was fake and hokey and phony, and I had this complicated relationship with it. So, taking a step back, as an Enneagram type 3, again, I'm not my type, we're not our types, but leading with type 3, the teaching around type 3 is that of all the types of hearts, the 3 has a hollow heart, an empty heart, the opposite of a full heart. Now that explained how, for me personally, oh, when I stay on the surface of myself and I'm operating from my personality structure and not the depths of my being, I don't even drop down there. It's almost like hit it, bouncing out, hit, bouncing out, and I'm out and I'm active and I'm doing, and I can't have access to feelings. And I'm talking about the the bulk of my life, right? Not so much recently, but that's been sort of the theme and the story of my life. And so in that moment where the invitation is to feel gratitude, well, there isn't access to any feelings. And the idea is that if I drop in, I mean, often for us, it's not conscious. We don't consciously think if I drop in, my feelings will, overwhelm me. Some of us think that, but I don't know that I consciously thought that. I just stayed busy. And it was only when I started to meditate, I don't know, in 2006, and all the feelings, the hard feelings, the sad feelings, the first thing I did when I started meditating was just cry and cry and cry for the longest time, right? So if someone had told me you should be grateful in that moment, I, might have had a few words with them, right? So, but the idea is that once my heart was open, then it was also open to gratitude. And gratitude came more readily. But it wasn't just always like a natural flow of gratitude either. Sometimes I had to exercise the muscle by noticing how I would focus on where I hadn't made it yet, right? I wouldn't focus on the present and where I was, which could fill me with a sense of having and having enough. But I knew that my type was oriented toward a different habit of attention. And so both things, this idea that I believe, and I think this is why a lot of us can struggle with gratitude practice, not feeling authentic, that what it means is actually allowing an openness of heart that then makes room for a fullness of heart. And if we're going to segregate one, it's like if I'm going to cease from feeling pain, I'm going to cease from feeling at all. And now I want to talk about all the Enneagram types, because as you remember, as you might recall, I teach the Enneagram not just as a typology, but as a map of consciousness, a map of awakening, a map of wholeness. And in that map, that inner triangle for point 9, 6, 3 maps our fall from consciousness and from the belief at point 9 in holy love that we are one with divine love, not separate. And then that drop down to 6, that existential fear and angst, holy crap moment for all of us. And then point 3, not just type 3, but for all types, sitting at point 3, what I see is all of us have a version of that empty heart, right? It's a version of that lack consciousness of what's not available to us, right? For the fullness or wholeheartedness that is like an authentic and robust life. And some types, some of you know, that you'll say no to the negative feelings, but others say no to the positive ones, right? And that no actually keeps all of it from being completely real. And so wholehearted gratitude for me, this invitation to you to wholehearted gratitude is actually the invitation to open in a way that allows for the movement and flow of all the feelings. And even if for a time, some of those feelings are painful feelings, but it's like without that opening, I don't know that gratitude, authentic gratitude is even possible. Wholeheartedness, a full heart. Now, I want to tie this back to Sofer's work. So it so happens that in my upcoming book, The Enneagram of the Soul, I have a chapter on gratitude practice. In that chapter, I talk about the relationship between gratitude and generosity, because that's something that I've observed over the years. And it wasn't until now, in fact, I haven't actually read Sofer's chapter on generosity yet. That's next, but I like to read it as I go along with you. So maybe he actually addresses this, and I just think it's my own aha. But here's what's happened. If you go back to the lesson on wonder, for me, when I sat with this practice of wonder, I found that in my body, wonder was like looking up like this. And wonder breaks open sort of that cage of my type. And like I'm open and I'm open to receiving life. I am in awe and wonder, right? So thinking about that, I realized I was like, oh my goodness. As I was sitting with gratitude, I naturally went from, oh, to the natural pose I had was to look down at my heart, to go down and inward, like here. And I realized, oh, gratitude is something that starts to fill up my heart. And then what happens? Gratitude then overflows, right? So generosity is the overflow of a full heart. And what a relief, right? Because so often, even from a spiritual perspective, when people invite us into the generosity practice, then it's like, oh God, I have to give and give and give. And as a woman, that's even more of a story. And so just recognizing that, wow, how can the series of reflections and practices, these contemplative practices, so deeply nourish and support our authentic being so that wholeheartedness fills us up and then overflows. So I'm pulling up the quote from Carl Jung that I shared last week. If our religion is based on salvation, our chief emotions will be fear and trembling. If our religion is based on wonder, our chief emotion will be gratitude. And then from my book, Lakota author and activist Doug Goodfeather says, gratitude and generosity are similar virtues, but they differ in that gratitude is an internal characteristic and generosity is our external expression of our sense of gratitude. Basically, gratitude is how we feel, and generosity is how we express that feeling out in the world. And even mindfulness and meditation teacher Tara Brach said this: gratitude is like breathing in, letting ourselves be touched by the goodness in others and in our world. Generosity is like breathing out, sensing our mutual belonging and offering our care. She writes, when we are awake and whole, breathing in and out happens naturally. But these beautiful expressions of our heart become blocked when we are dominated by the fear and grasping of our survival brain. So, again, if I haven't said it enough, I want to make sure as you are reflecting on this, that you know that I believe one of the ways we harm each other is by saying you should, like you should be grateful. So that is not at all the focus of what I'm at least endeavoring to share. What I'm inviting instead in this invitation to try on this practice is to locate yourself within that flow of giving and receiving. And perhaps you need to go back to that lesson on wonder and say, oh, I just thought this is the way life is. And if I open, then maybe I will open to the fullness of my inner experience. And in that opening, in that breathing in, I will have greater capacity within my being to welcome, to entertain gratitude as an aspect that is just a fount within me, right? Not something I have to effort toward, but yes, something I need to be a little attentive to, right? Especially depending on how my egoic structure censors what I'm capable of receiving and feeling. And then, so that's the breathing in. And then the breathing out that happens naturally, where then I share myself spontaneously as a fount of expression in our world, whether that be in the form of financial support. I would like to say here personally, I know in myself that my heart for generosity has changed over the years, and that somehow this practice, without me specifically trying, there's something more real, more authentic about a spirit of generosity of my time, my attention, right? My talents, and even my finances, to act more out of faith and to open more, trusting that I will always be given what I need for this life, right? So I invite you to consider that and even check it out. See what that's like in people you know, and consider, oh yeah, we might judge someone as being stingy or selfish, but is it that they haven't received? Is it, and is this what it means to those who are given, more will be given, right? I think I just butchered that scripture, but that idea, right? And to those who don't have, right? I mean, that scripture feels so almost like unfair, right? To those who have, they will be given more, is essentially what it says. And I feel like that's what they're talking about, that there's like this flow that we open to, and then there's more. And so also from my book, again, um, if you follow me here, but also on social media, you're going to get a little preview, a little gems from the book before it actually physically drops and is available to the general public on April 7th, 2025. So this is straight out of my top secret copy of the book. Not so secret anymore because I'm sharing it with you in a state of grateful generosity. This is straight out of my book. In a state of grateful, breathing in, generosity, breathing out. One's experience rest in the divine perfection of the moment and inspire acceptance and serenity in all, through all. Breathing in, breathing out. Twos harvest a cornucopia of love and humbly give from what they first allow themselves to receive. Breathing in, breathing out. Threes experience their pearl-like being and mirror the exquisite truth in others in a way that draws their unique presence and purpose forth. Breathing in, breathing out. Fours take to heart the sweetness of joy as well as of sorrow and creatively bring to life the full spectrum of our shared humanity. Breathing in, breathing out. Fives sense their connection to a boundless and interconnected energy field and give freely of their compassionate wisdom. Breathing in, breathing out. Sixes see through eyes of faith and lend an excess of encouragement and fortitude to every situation they encounter. Breathing in and breathing out. Sevens are fully sated within the here and now and share the joy of contentment with others. Breathing in, breathing out. Eights become more fiercely tender with the world and offer the gift of their childlike awe and wonder. Breathing in, breathing out. Nines embrace all points of view and generously contribute their unique voice and grounded vitality. Breathing in, breathing out. Awe and wonder, breathing in, breathing out. Namaste.